This is interesting. I wanted to talk about this. Zimbabwe begs white farmers to return as nation teeters on brink of man-made starvation. There's several layers to this that we have to think about. First layer is obviously be careful what you wish for. But you have to remember the average Zimbabwe person didn't beg white farmers to leave. This is very orchestrated, and it's orchestrated in a way where people want to be like, let him starve, fuck him, all this stuff. Where it's like they asked for it, now let them pay for it. Think about how little control you have in your government right now in America. Most people are like that. There's an elite few, many of them have extremely small hats, that orchestrate these racial divides and start these like, the problem that the Zimbabwe farmers did is they took the ticket of wrath and pride and envy and all that stuff. I get it. Be careful what you wish for. It's happening in South Africa. But a lot of these people, their whole day is just trying to get water. No, you made your bed, now lay in it. Right, I get that. But the people that are starving, a lot of them had zero say in anything. Okay, let's say we invade Syria right now. And we are just actively like, no, please, not another war. And then the rest of the world, just because of the way the media shows it to us, say, and then they start bombing your babies and your kids, their school, and says, you bombed our school. Now you lay in your bed. That's the thing that you have to really think about. Trust me, I'm all about punishment. I like Duterte. I get it. But it's like the bloodthirsty nature of revenge when you're dealing with constructs like Zimbabwe and Rhodesia and all this stuff. It's like the average person has nothing to do with it. And I'm not saying to like send them money or philanthropy or anything, because most of it just gets hoarded by warlords anyway, or it's just a way for grabblers to look like they aren't. Disgusting. But I was like looking at this and I was really thinking about it because my first instinct was let them starve, if you don't. But it's the language that really threw me, where it's like begs white farm, because I already know white's a construct, and some people are gonna and rant and screech. I get it. White is made up. There is no history of white. There is no food of the whites. There's Scottish people. There's Irish people. There's British. There's Anglo-Saxons, Aryans, Germans, Germanic, Italian, like Russians. There's no similarities between Russians and Scottish people. And if you want to wipe it all and make it all bleached, bromated, homogenized, pasteurized, burnt milk, you go ahead. I'm not doing that. It's not because it's because I know how grabblers and social engineers work. I know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to get people to mock the starving and say, you deserve it. When the average Zimbabwe child or family had nothing to do with any of it. Because what you cast, you will, like what you reap, you will sow. And if you point your finger at these people right now and say, starve, 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 you deserve it. That's what happens when you kick out whites. You starve, you deserve it. Like, you might as well be saying it to yourself in 20 years. Because that's going to happen here. And when that happens and you see that the media has painted a picture that the big red, white, and blue, it's like they thought they could take over the world. You're doing it to yourself every time. Those babies deserve to be alive. And the more you see it, the more you understand. Like, we make our own bread. This is my family yesterday. That's all from scratch. Not only is it homemade bread, a lot of the ingredients are from our garden and from our, we use goat milk and our own eggs and all that stuff. And it's like, we have so much. Let me show you something about scarcity. This really blew my mind. Okay, that's from 3 days, right? That's 3 days of Nigerian dwarf milk goats. On 2 acres, we have more acres, but our total usage of land is 2 acres. We can feed a family of 4 plus way more, to the point where we have so much milk now that we're making our own soap with the milk. We get 20 eggs a day, 30 eggs a day, all of our root vegetables, our waters from our land. It's like all of our spices. It's like, and I've planted 40 trees that haven't even started producing yet. We're talking apples, pears, plums, almonds, walnuts, all of it, olives. There is no scarcity. There's no scarcity. It's a lie. The whole concept, this Zimbabwe thing really struck me because, okay, look at this. So it's like, Zimbabwe begs white farmers to return as nation teeters on brink of man-made starvation. They're just starving these people. There's plenty of land. Guys, I'm on 2 acres. It's the first year I've ever done any of this stuff. This is what my fridge was this morning. This is in the winter with no sun. There's no sun where I live right now. That sunlight doesn't go above the trees in the day. I'm so far north. Like, I'm way north. And it's like, there's plenty. Forced scarcity is another trick by the grabblers and the Freemasons. There is no scarcity of anything. 2 acres can feed like 100 people. I swear to God, it's nuts. Just our chicken coop, the amount of protein. Love your enemies. Exactly. This is one of those situations where it's like, love your enemies, because those people aren't wicked. They're social engineered. And yes, a lot of sub-Saharan Africans have lower IQs, like statistically. So some of them, and by the way, that's not even a shot at them, because a lot of them, I probably relate more to a Zimbabwe homesteader than I do a high IQ urban sodomite. I do. But very trickable people when it comes to the ways of the grabbler. So they did the same thing to Russian serfs and Ukrainian serfs. They got them to hate their own farmers. This thing really affected me today. Like, because it's so devious. Me 6 months ago would have been like, let them starve. That's what you get for kicking out the high production farmers. That's exactly what they did in Ukraine. They got the serfs, these unsophisticated people, to turn on their own establishment, to turn on the czar. And they did it in Russia. They did it with all the kulaks and all that. And then they starve them. And they say, you asked for it. And they're like, but you told us, let them starve. Hey, man, the same thing will be said about you. Trust me. That'll happen to you, man. And I'm not saying to let a single one of these people into your nations or into your countries. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's another man-made problem. Migration, total. You don't need to let these people in. There's plenty of water and food in every single African country to feed all of them, and they are fine. This is all, like, these are all fake environments that are created by these GMO, or I can't remember what they're called, multinationals, to get the people into Europe, to get the people into Africa, to wear down the demographics of our populations. They don't need to leave Somalia. They don't need to leave Zimbabwe. It's all, they starved them out. They did the same thing to the Irish. The potato famine was man-made. And that's why when people say white, or when people say, oh, well, I get that they test lower in IQ, but that isn't the whole thing. They used to say the same shit about the Irish. They would say, oh, they would sell Irish people, they would sell Irish slaves cheaper than black slaves. Yes, they're fake. It's such a fake narrative. It's such a fake narrative. There were no slaves in Russia for more than a generation. It was nope. Read Tolstoy, dude. Are you that? There were no serfs for more than a generation in Russia. Have you read Anna Karenina or what was that book I read not that long ago by Tolstoy? A Confession. Of course there were serfs. If you bought land, they came with humans until the 1900s, like into the 20th century, by the way. Yeah, potato famine was grab war. They did the same thing with the Irish that they're doing now. They fake a problem. They were pulling 7 ships full of potatoes out of Ireland every day. Tolstoy was spiritual. He found Jesus in his 40s, I think. Read A Confession. It's powerful. I've done streams on it. It's a powerful book. It's about how because the times of Russia in the 1890s and stuff, were exactly like they are now when it comes to media. Just writing to hear the sound of their own voice. He would talk about. He would talk about the cosmopolitan bourgeoisie class and how they were miserable and empty. And he was constantly trying to kill himself. It was actually kind of comedic. Like he wouldn't go into a barn alone with a rope because he'd assume he would hang himself. And he would look at his serfs, and they had so much more joy because they were all Christian and they were eating the food they made and all this stuff. Tolstoy found Jesus when looking at the peasants. Yeah, and he would see them like singing, and he could feel zero joy. And he was a very successful guy. This is after he wrote, I think it was Anna Karenina or one of those books. And he'd pull a Clinton. Yeah, he'd Clinton himself. 16 by 20 garden fed family of 4 of produce for entire non-winter season. Yes, my great-grandparents survived completely on their gardening. All of them. And I know that's possible. We're talking about little plots of land. My mom, I was raised like a 1/10 of an acre, maybe 1/20th, like a tiny little. My house was built for the, who was it? It was some factory workers. I think they made pencils or something, and or flour or something back in the day. And it was like my family's house was like 1,400, 1,500 square feet, tiny little yard. And my mom would just crank out potatoes and broccoli and spinach and raspberries and all that. There are military docs showing all the food taken from Ireland, thousands. Right, and they're doing the same thing now with Africa and Middle East. So be careful what you hate. Just that's all I'm saying. And I don't think a single one should come into Europe or America because that's the whole point. They do this to flood our countries with quote unquote refugees. But it is important in these times to not hate these people for what it could happen just as easily to us. Some of these areas we're looking at, we're just time traveling to what's going to be. When I was very young, parents used to say, eat all your food because they're starving in China. China is now on deck to be the world leader in wealth. There's already more billionaires in China than America. When I was a kid, they were still saying, like, eat your food because people are starving in China. That changed. That changed quick, huh, guys? So avoid hate spells. Exactly. Because I think God and Satan have this deal where they get the people to do it to others before it's done to them. Protect what you love, not kill what you hate. Big Bear. Oh, I said that. It's a good quote. I was about to say, what a great quote. And then I realized it was me. Same with my parents, BB. Eat your food. People are starving. Yeah, but I remember them saying China. Agenda 2063. Right. Yeah, but their agendas don't mean if you don't bite. I've fished many a day and not gotten a fish. I had an agenda. It was called Agenda Salmon. And I went home with nothing because the salmon didn't bite. So every time you think that they have some big master plan, think about how many fishermen have master plans. I've many a day had a master plan and nothing. I went home without any fish.